Welcome to the second section of this course. By the end of this section, you're going to have a moving character that manually detects collision with either the wall or the other enemies, and also you're going to have a camera that follows him around. So let's get started right away by opening up the artwork folder. The first thing we'll need to have a character moving is to actually have the character on the scene somewhere. So this is our texture right here. We're going to click on it. Make sure it is under Sprite 2D and UI. Now I'm looking at this in the inspector. So this texture we import, the PNG image, make sure it is under Sprite 2D and UI and then hit apply if it wasn't already. Once that is completed, we are going to go under sprite mode and make sure this is on multiple. The only reason we are doing this is because this specific atlas right here, this specific image, has multiple sprites on it, so we need it to be on multiple. If you cropped out your player, if you have a different texture and your player is cropped out into a single image, don't worry about putting it on multiple, you just need to have it in your project somewhere. In our case, our player is somewhere at the bottom here, so we still don't know which one we're going to be using, but this is a multiple spreadsheet. So go ahead and hit apply once more, and we're going to then click on the sprite editor. This is going to open up this nice window. And in that window, we're going to manually crop out our player. So I'm going to pan around using the middle mouse button and then zoom in, again using the middle mouse. And I'm going to choose which player I like the most in that. So we could start with that little boy over here, that little disturbed boy. And I'm going to make sure that I zoom in very close and I click and hold to drag around. So as you can see, it's going to create that green square, and make sure you wrap the whole player around it, including the little outline over here. So once you have your first drag, make sure you resize it properly. In this case, I have something that is 15 by 16, and that would be our player right here. If you'd like to have something that is a little bit more clean and have a standardized size for every single sprites we're going to have, I really suggest you put that on 16 by 16 by extending this thing by 1 pixel. So when you look at the bottom over here, you're going to see the width is 16 pixel and the height is 16. Now you could of course have something else that is 256 by 256 if you have more definition in your sprite. But in this case, all the characters, all the little players you see here can be fit in a 16 by 16. Maybe at the exception of this one, the knights, they're a little bit bigger. But if we want to use all the same size of the player, we can go here, and as you can tell, they all fit in a 16 by 16. Okay, so I'm going to go back, make sure that this one is the one that I selected. And I'm going to go down here. Really important you go down here and you rename this sprite. This is going to be player_0. Once we have more sprites for the player, I'll call this one player_1, player_2, and so on. Actually, let's do that right now. So we're going to, once this one is completed, once this one is clean, so 16 by 16, we're going to do another drag just by clicking anywhere else. And I'm going to select this little guy as well. This one is 16 by 15, so I'm missing 1 in height, so let's get that. And here we go. That would be player 0, and that would be player 1. So I'm going to make sure I rename this one as well. Okay, so at the moment, we have our 2 player sprites. They are not registered just yet. We have to click apply at the very top. And that will conclude all we need to do today with the sprite editor. If you close that up, you're going to see that your atlas now has this little arrow. If you click on it, you'll see player 0 and player 1. You can also have a preview of those sprites by clicking on this at the very bottom of the inspector. As you can tell, you see this is our 16 by 16 pixel player 1 and player 0.